Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Professors of Profit vlogcast. I'm your host, Dr. F Scott Feil, and I'm joined today by a very interesting guest, Dr. Ali El-Kerdi. Doc, thanks for coming on and sharing your side hustle today. Tell us a little bit about your background and how it led you to where you are today with your side hustle.
Thank you so much for having me. My background, well, I started off as an athletic trainer and then, didn't do a lot of athletic training, went straight to PT school. Then went to do a PhD and now I teach full time. I'm a professor in PT. And, one of the big things, I also did an MBA along the way. I'm a school junkie, did an MBA along the way. And initially what I did, I knew friends that taught CPR and that taught not just CPR but continuing education courses. I was like, well, how do you get into that? It's like, oh, you need experience, all this other stuff. And I'm like, all right, fine. But then somewhere along the line, I realized you don't need experience for CPR courses. 18-year-old kids do it, right? Like literally 18-year-old kids do it. I was like, well, what is this all about? So, when I looked at it more, so I although I have my own continuing education company and I offer courses, athletic training, PT, all this other stuff, the CPR thing has been really interesting because it's not specific to just us as PTs or just as athletic trainers, right? It's every healthcare worker, even non-healthcare workers, industry people, right? Industrial, manufacturing, everybody wants people to have CPR training, right? High school kids going out on, on volunteerships, undergrad kids going to do and like volunteer work anywhere. So then I started thinking about, I'm like, this is great. So then I started doing it, not terribly seriously, but I mean, I did it for a while doing other things in school, whatever. It was always like a side thing, a couple $100 here, a couple of $1,000 there, I never really put a lot of time and effort into it. More recently, because of COVID and all the shutdowns, and my clinic got shut down, I also work part time. I was like, "Damn, I'm losing a lot of money here." Like COVID, I'm a per diem part time worker in a clinic, and we're the first ones to go. Obviously, like, I don't blame my employer. First one to go, and I'm sitting there. I'm like, what am I gonna do? What am I gonna do to supplement, right? And we have food to put on the table and all this other stuff. So then I started taking the CPR thing a little bit more seriously, and then the Red Cross and the AHA, they allowed us as instructors to do stuff online virtually, like Zoom, like everybody else in the world, right? So we can do Zoom training, Zoom courses, for CPR and recertify people. So I'm like, this is a no-brainer. So then I started advertising the courses, and advertising, to do a virtual CPR training. And along the way, I became a CPR instructor trainer, right? And then, and throughout the years, I've been helping, like, oh, you want to become an instructor? At first, I only did it for our students that really were interested. But then in the last 2 years, I was like, people are, it's like, this is a great side hustle for people, right? Amazing side hustle. I had somebody who I trained about a year ago just tell me, thank me all this up and down. He's an athletic trainer. Out of work, all this other stuff, just got back into work. But he's like, I made almost 20 grand last year just in teaching CPR courses. And I'm shaking my head. I'm like, well, I didn't make 20 grand last year. I'm like, how did you pull that off? So I'm asking him questions. I'm like, wait a minute. I want to make 20 grand. I'm like, how'd you? So he essentially went like nursing homes, PT clinics, like anything he can think of. Wawa, so Wawa is our like 7-Eleven, right? So we like a 7-Eleven nearby. Like he went everywhere. The poor guy was struggling. He had food on the table, his family, whatever. He's like, I went everywhere, and it took him about 3, 4, 5 months to really come up with a plan. But then, so really, I'm like, so really, you made 20 grand in like 6 to 8 months, right? Once you got the contracts, once you got people going. So it's a really, really easy side hustle. It's not anything cerebral like trying to teach an advanced manual therapy or advanced, cardio pulm class, and you have to get, so it's not, it's an 18-year-old kid off the street can go take a class, become certified, right? And then start teaching. You can get 12 people in a course, right? Depending on your region, you can charge anywhere between $80 to $120 a course, minus fees for the Red Cross or the AHA or whatever. You can probably pull, $70 to $90 a person. You get 12 people in a course, you're looking almost a grand. there's some upfront expenses. You have to mannequins, and you have to get, the course itself is like $300, some places like $400. But I realized that you can rent mannequins for the first one. Mannequins are expensive. They can set you back like $1,000, $2,000. But you can rent them for $10, $15 a day. On the first course, you rent the mannequins. You make up, enough money. You make enough money on the first course to buy your own mannequins. And then after that, there's really no expenses. If you take down your mileage for driving, for instance, if you deduct that, you can deduct a ton of stuff, right? I created my own LLC just because, just to protect myself or whatever. I made CPR courses. Like, nobody really goes after you for a CPR, but create my own LLC. It cost me $300. Okay. So literally after my first course, I had paid for all my expenses. And after that is just money in the bank. It's great. Like, I started doing more and more and more of it recently because, not being in clinic and stuff. And now I'm going to go back to clinic, so I don't need to do as much of it. But I was doing not only the CPR courses, but CPR instructor courses. So, little side plug, if anybody wants to become trained, they can reach out. And I'm doing a lot. Here you go. Yeah. And,
Sign me up.
and I'm doing them virtually, honestly. I'm doing them virtually, so you don't have to travel anywhere, COVID aside, whatever. And, for all of us, I mean, we're all, even the students, PT students, it's such an easy, all your PT students need CPR, all of them, right? So all your classmates, you look around, if there's 20, 30, 40, 100 people in class, I mean, that's so easy. And then there's one or two other classes above you, below you,
Yep.
right? Maybe a couple of alumni, and then all of a sudden, oh, I'm in clinic. Oh, I graduate, I'm in clinic. All my clinicians, the secretaries, the admin, anybody within that facility needs to be CPR trained. And it's not a one-time course. So a lot of the CEU courses, you do it one time. Okay, I learned my updated cardiopulm, updated manual therapy. Great, thanks. I see you later. You have to do this every 2 years. So there's repeat business, right? That's the awesome model, right? So it's super cheap to start, and there's repeat business. Every 2 years, they come back. It's wonderful.
Yeah, I love so much about this side hustle, and I really didn't even think about it until we started talking a little bit online, and I was like, "This makes so much sense." So many people need it, right? It's like a demand. There's just always going to be a demand for CPR. I have to get recertified every 2 years. We all do. So it's going to be out there. Like you said, there's repeat business. Our clients are really all around us. I mean, they're right in front of us. They're, like you said, our classmates. There are neighbors. There are local businesses,
Your teachers,
clinicians. Yeah.
your professors,
Right.
like you and I, right?
So
I don't need to get recertified. I'm
funny
good.
you mentioned that. I actually asked if there was somebody at the university that taught CPR because my certification's coming up soon, and they said, I don't know, I'm not sure, I don't think so. We'd have to do a little research, maybe. And I was like, all right, I'll just figure it out. But yeah, all the professors, at least one of the professors, should be certified to be able to teach, and certify all the rest of the professors.
So what happened when a couple of years ago, I started running a program on, and then so we have students that say they have to have a valid CPR card to get into the program, right? The issue became for us was that people were expiring all the time. And it was so hard to keep track of all the students. I expire in September, I expire in October. When you accept the students, their valid CPR cards are fine. A month and 2 months into the semester, they expire, right? And then it's really hard to keep track. So then I decided at the time, I'm like, you know what? No, we're not going to do that. I don't care if you took your class a week ago, a day ago. You walk in on the first day of orientation, we certify everybody, right? And we don't charge the students extra. We at the time were only charging what the Red Cross, American Heart. I mean, you can get certified on both. I'm an instructor and a trainer for both, but we only charge what they charged us, right? So then we did it at cost for the students, right? But then I knew that for the next 2 years, we didn't have to worry about who's expiring and who's going to clinic when. Everybody expired on orientation. So then the next year and the next year, and the next year, they all got it done at the same time, the same day, the same week of orientation. So we didn't have to worry about it.
And I love the idea of taking it next level too and training the trainers, right? So look, I don't want to be the only guy coming down here on weekends to train you guys. So I'm going to train one or two of you so that
Yeah.
you can now do it as well and pass on the good faith,
And,
and
and that's the thing,
saving
with me.
lives, right? At the end of
Yeah.
the day, you're saving lives.
So a buddy of mine out of Canada, he's a clinician. So, but his main business is not clinical. He started off this side CPR thing. Now he does EMR training and the sports stuff, but he has a storefront, literally a storefront in a shopping strip. He does training. He opened up his own storefront. He just all he does is training every weekend, like 2, 3 times a night, just training, train, train, train. He has people coming in. He still does some, like he does all the pro sports and stuff up north. But that's all he does. Like he does some clinical stuff on the side. His side hustle is clinical work. His main job has become, because it was the other way around, right? So he like
Yeah.
converted to like, oh, I can't believe I went to school for this. I could have been 18-year-old kid.
Yeah.
I could have started this an 18-year-old kid and not had gone to school for any of this and become a clinician. So, he literally has a storefront and that's all he does is do CPR and emergency medical responder, EMT. So he does a lot of that training, but his bulk of his business is CPR training. I'm like shaking my head. I'm like, really?
Yeah.
You make that much money? And when you sit down and do the math, I'm like, yeah, you
Yeah,
can.
you do.
Absolutely. You can make a ton. And I'm just amazed by, you know, but how much like that you can make a living out of it.
Yeah.
But I'm also kind of like kicking myself in the bottom for like, well, why didn't I
Right.
think of
Yeah.
that? Like,
Well,
why
hey,
didn't I think
listen,
of that?
man, there's still time, right? We can still
Yeah.
pivot and change things up, and like I said, add it as a side hustle, right? That's what you got going now. Just build it until you don't need it to be a side hustle, I guess, if that's what you truly love. I mean, at the end of the day, it really is just educating, right? And that's kind of
Yeah.
why I got into academia. Is I love educating. I didn't know, some of the extraneous stuff that went along with academia, but I'm learning. I'm picking it up on the fly. Well, Ali, tell me a little bit about some like tips or tricks or pointers that you would give to somebody who's looking to maybe start a side hustle, either teaching CPR or teaching instructors how to teach CPR.
Yeah. So so what I'm doing less and less of the CPR classes. I'm doing more instructor classes. I feel like, if you want to have an effect, like, and especially with the virtual, being able to do it virtually, I love the idea of instructing people to then to go, because I can affect more people that way. It's almost like a pyramid, right? So like, somebody's at the top teaching you, and then it trickles down, right? So rather than doing, a 10 participant course in CPR, I'd rather do 10 participant course in a CPR instructor course, where then those 10 then can then go out and do their thing, right? And becoming instructor is not that complicated, right? 18 years old is your minimum requirement. That's it. Like 18-year-old is minimum requirement, right? Then you have to have physically, mentally, cognitively being able to teach it. And you take the course, typically, an American Red Cross course is a 2-day course on site. The American Heart Association does it in like a day. The American Red Cross route is easier to become an instructor because you take the course, you're done. The American Heart, you take the course, but then you have to come back and do um, like an observation. You have to do almost like a teach back, where you have to go and observe a course in person, which is a little tougher because you have to go find somebody, whatever. The American Heart Association also wants you to be part of a training center. Like so the American Red Cross, you go straight to them. The American Heart, you have to go be part of a training center. Every 2 years, you have to recertify with the American Heart. Right? So there's additional expense every 2 years. The American Red Cross, no, as long as you're teaching 2 courses a year or 2 courses every 2 years, a course
Right.
a year, then your instructorship gets renewed. And
Right.
every now and then there's an online thing you have to do to update, right? So the American Red Cross route is an easier route. However, most healthcare providers want the American Heart, right? Because hospital based and all this other stuff. If you're like an outpatient clinic, they don't usually care, but anything hospital based, they want American Heart. So that's kind of part of the reason I end up getting both, an instructor trainer for both. But again, the American Heart one is, again, there's additional steps you have to take, a little bit more complicated. You have to find a training center. You have to find somewhere to observe. They have to go back to them every 2 years and get recertified. So a little bit more complicated. With the American Heart, I can train you. You could be in Alaska. I can train you here. And then once I set you off on your way, you're like, congratulations. You have any questions, call me. You can always call the Red Cross, but a lot of the people, they have problems, different with the website, something's up or whatever. They always end up, reaching out to me, and I'm happy to help. You should reach out to the 800 number, but if you need something quick, text me, call me. I'm always available to anybody and just trying to help out. So it's kind of like the routes that you take, right? To become an instructor trainer, which is the next level, right? And for both of them, you have to have teaching history, right? A couple of years of teaching history to show that, okay, I've done it a few years. I know what I'm doing. I'm comfortable, confident, right? On the AHA side, to become an instructor trainer, you have to basically be on the good graces of your training center. And the director of the training center is gonna, oh yeah, you've been teaching for me for a while, Scott. Yeah, hey, you know what? Sure, I'll put you through that process. The American Red Cross, a lot easier. Training history, right? So a couple of years of instructorship,
Mhm.
and then you basically apply. And that's it. You apply. So long as you've taught, they don't tell you how many courses or how many individuals per course, but my understanding is that 2, 3 years of courses. But if you're doing like 10 a week, which isn't crazy, but if you're doing a bunch,
Yeah.
I guarantee within 6 months to a year, they'll approve you being an instructor,
Yeah.
right? An instructor trainer. But usually, typically, if you're doing 1 or 2 a month, you're gonna go about 2 years before they allow you to become an instructor trainer. But it's super easy.
Yeah. That is awesome. That is awesome. Well, we here on the Professors of Profit vlogcast encourage shameless plugs. So Ali, if you wouldn't mind, tell my audience where they can find you, where they can reach out to you if they have more questions, or if they want to get trained and certified to either teach CPR or eventually teach instructors of CPR.
Honestly, they're happy to reach out. I can give you my email. It's aelkerdi at hotmail.com. Yes, I still use Hotmail. I also have the same one at Gmail if you really want. That's my junk mail, Gmail for junk mail. So aelkerdi at Hotmail. They're more than welcome to reach out and call me 410-430-4560. Call, text me, whatever. The other caveat is I know we're doing a shameless plug, but the other caveat is to protect myself, I have an LLC. Everything goes to the LLC. Payments go through the LLC. I have an EIN for tax purposes because I don't do anything shady and lose my house with the IRS coming at you. So I'm not trying to promote people doing anything not legal or anything. So I'm always on the up and up for everything. So I'm happy to help people, give them my experience and how I started and what I've done. To get the LLC, the EIN, the tax ID number from the
Mhm.
federal government. So I'm happy to kind of give that information as well when the time comes, if they're interested. And honestly, yeah, just reach out and I'm happy. You don't have to take my course. I can just direct you to where to take a course.
Sure. And I'll drop those links in the show notes here when I get this thing published. So again, I can't thank you enough for your time and for coming on. My big thing is I want to help people pay off their student loans as efficiently as possible. Right? We got into physical therapy or whatever field you're in, because we love helping people. We love healthcare and helping people get better. I think the debt to income ratio has become a big problem, and in all of healthcare, not just physical therapy. And so, if we want to really truly do these jobs that we love, sometimes we have to find alternative ways to leverage our degree and our background and our knowledge. And this is a great way to do that. So, thank you so much for your time and for coming on and educating my audience on that.
You're very, very welcome. I'm very happy to do it. And honestly, like I said, an 18-year-old kid with no healthcare experience can do it. I can't see why our doctoral students or even our professionals can't teach a silly CPR. I mean, I say it's silly, but it's very basic information
Right.
that everybody needs. Everybody needs that cert. So the market is huge and open in
Yeah.
terms of marketing and in getting participants.
Yep.
So and it's repeat business every two
Yeah.
years. They have to come back and do it.
Yeah, no, you hit the nail on the head on that one. It's, everybody needs it. One of the side hustles that I started unintentionally last year was selling power and energy, right?
Okay.
I was fed up with my energy company. My electricity bills were way too high, so I found another company, Ambit, that's gives me energy and lowers the cost and allows me to sell it to other people, like a multi-level marketing thing. And I'm not an MLM guy; I just don't like it. I don't like the feel of it. But everybody needs electricity. Everybody needs energy.
Yeah.
So if anybody's looking to lower their electric bill, I always ask them like, "Hey, have you checked out this company?" It's seamless. It makes sense, because people need it. So this makes perfect sense. People need CPR certification, especially all healthcare clinicians, and that's our bread and butter. That's who we interact with every day. So
No,
makes so
absolutely.
much sense, and I love that about this side hustle. So
No. And you
again,
can do
thank you.
that right out of your own. If you own a clinic, you can do it right out of your own clinic after hours. So you don't take away from your clinical hours from your patients. But if you own your own clinic or if you work in a facility that allows you to, you don't have to find a different space to do it in. Right. And I know a couple that does it out of their basement. It's weird. I don't know if people come to my house, but there's an older couple that's their retirement.
Yeah,
A lot of people are doing, and just I'm almost kicking myself in the bottom for not like thinking about this earlier and really doing something about it, right?
yeah.
So I'm happy to help in any way I can. If anybody wants more information, they feel free to reach out, and we'll go from there.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Ali. I appreciate your time.
I appreciate it. Bye, guys.